Cobalt sits comfortably between iron and nickel on the periodic table, and Chevy chose that name for this car because it is heavy metal, baby. That is probably completely freaking false, but it's a decent hook, eh? Now, the always correct and never to be questioned Wikipedia page says that this was GM's first entry into the tuner market, but that doesn't really sit right with me. Y'all are smart, comment what you think deserves that mantle because I'm thinking whoever wrote that might have missed at least one. Regardless though, it is hard to ignore this car's reception into the market. Featuring the Mountain Dew 2-liter inline 4-cylinder, early models had the supercharged 205 horsepower version, and later models had the turbocharged 260 horsepower version, right out the gate. It's also worth mentioning that GM offered a Stage 1, 2, and 3 kit for the supercharged version and a Stage 1 kit for the turbo, which is very typical of GM to specifically stray away from any standardized unit of measurement, but we don't have to go there. Be better than them, we're adults here and know that stages aren't really a thing. Soapbox over. Both versions were definitely a lot of fun and pumped through a proper 5-speed manual transmission to let you really row yourself through the gears and get the most out of them. Debatably almost too much. The supercharged model particularly, mostly due to the prominent low-end torque front-wheel drive and weighing less than 3,000 pounds, it commonly faced glaring traction issues. Also, I never noticed it when I got the chance to drive it, but apparently it came with a standard launch control and a no-lift shift feature, which feels like sacrilege, but it was deliberately implemented for those childish, intrusive thoughts. From a stop sign, no lift shift. Getting onto the freeway, no lift shift. In the produce section of the grocery store, you get the idea.
Open my window and a breeze rolls in.
And we're moving on. Interior. True to GM. Cheap and chintzy. Chevy in the 2000s weren't best known for their quality or enthusiastic design of their interiors across the board, and this car is no exception. The plastics felt hard and were abundantly present, and the whole package just felt a bit like it was 10 years behind everybody else. But you get this little A-pillar gauge, so, you know, that's nice. But let's be real, you'd be spending between 22 and 24 grand on a new car with forced induction and massive Brembo brakes. There had to be some compromise, so I'd let this one slide. Same thing with the styling too. If you take off its super recognizable wing, it just kind of reverts back to a little Econobox Dodge neon looking thing that just makes me go ugh. And thank goodness that the aftermarket picked up on this, because there are definitely now some really mean looking versions of this car that can stick it to some known respectable muscle cars of equivalent years. Motor Trend actually referred to this car in an article as the American Type R, and I can definitely see why. Conveniently, the turbo version is also very similar to the engine that I have in my Buick GS, which I can attest to the fact is definitely pretty zesty and has a very unique low grumble that you wouldn't associate normally with a 4-cylinder tuner. It has a quite handsome sound. That can't wait to mention it, yes, it was developed on the Nürburgring and held the production front-wheel drive record with a time of 8 minutes and 22 seconds. This car deserves to be more than just the butt end of a joke. And if you can manage to find one these days, you'd be in for a heck of a treat. The engines did have some issues with the timing chain and the balance shaft, and a lot of people have never heard how loud direct injection could be, but in good condition, these things are usually worth more than just a scoff. If they had just made it rear-wheel drive, it could have been, dare I say, perfect? Maybe, maybe not. Maybe more like a modern 240. Fun fact, apparently there was a super limited run in 2009 where the Cobalt SS was actually made available in the sedan version. I couldn't get a reliable number, it's somewhere around 500-ish, give or take. Either way, really small, and the sedans are notoriously less collectible than coupes anyway. In between a contract with Eaton expiring and tightening regulations on emissions, the Cobalt SS was already on thin ice, and as soon as plans for the Cruise came around, its days were numbered.
Honestly, I'm just as disappointed with the back half as I was with the front half.
I couldn't find any definitive reason that they discontinued the Cobalt platform outside of general obsolescence. But Chevy, baby, listen. The technology exists today. The modern 4-cylinder turbo that we see in the 2022 Camaro doesn't seem to have any issues as far as passing emissions. Now imagine that and a fresh take on a sub 3,000 pound retro streamlined coupe. You want to win back some PR? It's not with another crossover. It's with that. But I want to know what your thoughts are. What car should I cover next? Let me know in the comments below and support the channel by leaving a like to bump the algorithm. But most importantly, thank you so much for watching. Now drive safe, stay curious, and have a wonderful day. Wait, what are you still doing here? Go on and click on this video. I promise, it's a good video. Go before he does it again. Ah!